off the piano as I faded out, because I play this every time.
Are you getting like carpal tunnel? Because it's like the same notes, every time we record.
It's kind of like muscle memory now. It's kind of like, I can't, dang it. There's like a term for it that's not muscle memory, like the whole thing about like when people go like do music as like therapy for like, You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh.
I don't.
Okay. Never mind.
You know what we should do if we set up a Patreon? We get a player piano. That's like our first purchase, and that way you don't have to play it every week.
Oh yeah, see, and we'll have our listeners spot the difference if they can. Yeah. But hi guys, welcome back to Style and Direction, a menswear podcast without any stuffiness. This is your host Ethan Wong.
I'm your other host Spencer Hottie.
And today, we're gonna be talking about Bryceland and Ethan Newton by extension.
Yeah, we hinted at it in the last episode.
And then I thought I wasn't gonna do it because I'm like,
And then I convinced him to do it during Instagram Live.
Oh yeah, because I think was it you who just did you just straight up ask me that, or was it like
I don't know. I think someone was asking us about Brycelands or asking us about like when are we recording another podcast, and I think I brought up
two birds with the one stone.
Yeah, and I was like, I think we're doing one of Brycelands, and you're like, I don't think we need to. I was like, we can.
Yeah. And we are.
And that's
what you're listening to it
here we
right
are.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
If you guys are ever feel bad whenever I get hesitant over making podcast episodes, that's a sign for Patreon. So
there you go. Yeah.
I'm just saying. We don't have one, but if you guys think that we should, because you guys really want the content like on a consistent basis,
and let us know what kind of bonus content you guys would like, because we want to make it a little bit different. We want to make it cool, special. I
would be very interested if they wanted me and you to do like Twitch streams or something. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Epic gamers.
Yeah. In suits. Take that, menswear.
Yeah, take that, ninja. I'm after you.
Spoiler alert. We kind of find out that Ethan Newton's kind of a gamer.
He's the biggest gamer there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, Bryceland is kind of like, we've talked about it quite a bit, especially in our inspiration episode. And basically, I don't know how you describe the brand, because in talking to Kenji and Ethan Newton, the founders of this brand, it's about maybe 2 or 3 years old now. I'm not entirely
I can't
sure.
believe. I knew it was like a new brand, but it's weird to think it's only been around for that long.
If you think about it, I just saw on my story that like Damien's hat shop, Months of Ice & Co. has only been open for a year.
Yeah, and I think,
or 2 years.
I think
like that.
Bryceland's just celebrated their second or third, or not Bryceland. Drake celebrated their third anniversary in the New York store, something like that.
On Crosby Street, yeah. It just shows you that menswear, when you do it right, people just kind of assume it's always been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Marketing 101.
You went to school for it.
That's what I did. Yeah. 2 years of my life. But yeah, so anyway, to bring it back to what I was saying is that as a vintage person, I kind of assume it's kind of a vintage inspired and at times repro brand, but I'm sure they don't see it that way, because I think they're kind of more like they see it from like a classic menswear lens. Like we're making these classic garments that stand the test of time or whatever, But let's kind of go back a little bit further. So Ethan Newton, he's kind of the more creative director part of Bryceland's. I'm sure that Kenji has input too, but Kenji, I think, has more business aspect to him. Again, if we're wrong, hey, Kenji and Ethan, you want to let us know?
Get on the podcast.
Yeah, get on the podcast. But yeah, so Ethan Newton, if you guys haven't listened to Blammo, you guys should. I don't listen to every episode just because I don't know that much about, see if there's like a watch guy. I'm like, I don't really, not a watch guy. But he did have a great interview on Blammo with Jeremy Kirkland, and Jeremy and Ethan have known each other because they both worked for the Armory at some point.
And Ethan... Ethan was one of the founders of the Armory, correct?
Yeah, one of the original founders. There was 3 of them. There was Mark Cho, Alan C., and Ethan Newton. And the Armory, if you guys don't know, it's probably like one of the biggest independent retailers of menswear. And in Hong Kong, in I think 2008, that's when they started. They opened up their first shop.
Yeah.
and they basically started as kind of like a satellite accessories trunk show space for WW And when I say, like, I was surprised because in my head, like, Hong Kong is like the size of LA, but it's like pretty big, and so I'm sure that they have clients on like whatever side the armory is that that the WW couldn't be there all the time, so that's why they created the store originally, to function as that arm. And I think that Mark and Alan have like real estate, supply chain, finance background, but I think Ethan Newton was the only one who had the kind of the fashion background, because if you listen to the Blammo podcast episode, his interview, like he says that he he's been working in menswear since he was like 18.
And he's like in Australia.
Started in Australia. I should have I think we must have talked about this last time, where we like whenever we talk to people that we kind of admire, it kind of turns into like an interview kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the way to make that not be an interview is to make sure you don't take notes of a conversation, because that's weird.
Yeah, if it's just like sitting down and hanging out with the guy.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I didn't take too many notes, but guys, please listen to
just
that
the Blammo episode. That's like the prequel.
There's a link in the blog. There's a link in the blog post about it. Like I include it there. But he at some point he moved to Japan. He worked for Ibisu. He's worked for like a bunch of different menswear companies, Ralph Lauren, all that kind of stuff. And he eventually helped found the Armory, and then he left. A couple years ago, maybe like 4 years ago, had a brief stint at corporate for Ralph Lauren, and then he started Bryceland's with Kenji.
Yeah,
and I kind of say that I can kind of notice the change happen, because I think when you work for the Armory and you compare it to like something like Drake's, there is a very distinct difference in terms of aesthetics. And the Armory's very dressed up, very classic. Drake's is a little bit more fun, more Ivy, and Bryceland's has a very vintage workwear kind of lean to it. And I think personally, that's what Ethan has like always kind of wanted to do. But you can kind of see it too, because when you see like pictures of him, like in Hong Kong working at the Armory, you can see spades of his style.
And because he talks. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on the Blammo episode, he talks about how he was, big into vintage collecting, even back in Australia and stuff like that, and especially when he moved over to Japan.
I mean, and it's huge in Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's kind of a background on Ethan Newton. My experience with him was, and I detailed this in the blog post, but I found the Armory on Tumblr maybe back in 2014, 2015, and when you're bored in class, all you can do is like go on their Tumblr and then go like /archive and just scroll endlessly, because they had at the time they had like 8 years of content, 10 now, and there's a reason why the Armory was so big. It's like they would take all these pictures and they would just post them on their Tumblr. They at the time it wasn't very it wasn't driven toward product. It was kind of like slice of life stuff, and I say that in the photography episode. But you could see that and a lot of the photography was done by Ethan, and they all had cameras, but my favorite ones were by Ethan. They were a little bit more dramatic, he later confirmed it, because he told me that he listened to the podcast, or he looked at the blog post about photography, and he said he would come in early on weekends or whenever and take his like outfit pictures or shoot around the shop before anyone would come in. That's also where I learned that if you turn off the lights, you can use natural light, and that's way better than having to deal with like yellow or orange fluorescent lighting.
Wind in it, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of took notice of him back then. It was cool to see a guy that wasn't, traditional. Like a lot of menswear guys are kind of slim. They're not. I'm not trying to call him fat or anything, but he was. It's refreshing to see a guy that's just different from all the norm.
And I think that's what they say when he was voted like best dressed man of the year by Simon Crompton. Is they say he has an unconventional body type for fashion or something like that. But he still makes it work. Yeah. And so it kind of drew me to Ethan, and clearly in the stuff that he would repost, he would sometimes reblog like old Lawrence Fellows illustrations, and
and stuff like that. So I kind of knew like, oh, there's another guy out there who's kind of got this vintage mindset. So I'm very similar to me. And so of course I followed him on Instagram. I followed all of, the major players, but even back before I, had any clout that I had today.
Yeah.
If you want to call it that. And I distinctly remember he followed me back at some point. Maybe it's because I had some vintage outfits. Because at the time, this was maybe like 3 years ago, I was working at Banana Republic. And I think the day before he followed me, I posted a picture of me and my coworkers. I was holding a Fiji water bottle, and I was like, "We bougie up in here." And that was like he followed me, and that was the first thing he liked.
Oh my god!
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And and I mean, even at the time, like I didn't really have any other contacts. I mean, maybe I followed some of the Drake's guys, but I don't even know if like Instagram had the whole followed by or the whole mutual connection thing. So I was very like, oh shit.
So he was kind of like the first like the
first
guy that followed you and he kind of got in contact with.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, if you want to call it contact, because I don't think I ever like really talked to him. Maybe he saw, because I would write about him a lot, or I'd like include pictures in blog posts, and I still do that with Ethan, Drake's guys, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, at that time though, he was no longer working at the Armory, so I really had no idea what he was up to. He was just kind of in Japan, I think, wearing his old Liveranos and
just
WW
walking around
chants.
Japan wearing clothes.
Hell yeah, dude! Like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And then like Bryceland's kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm not sure if we say this in the Inspiration LA podcast, but at the first I was like, oh, this is kind of weird, like ripped jeans with a blazer.
Really? You didn't like? Well, I could see. Yeah.
At the time, yeah. This is like 2015, 2016 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like it back then either. So.
Yeah. So I mean, at the time I was like in a super armory mood, like, oh, I gotta get like a navy suit, like, and I still wore spear point collars and everything, and vintage and Taylor Cade-esque, 60s. I was trying to get more into Ivy and everything, but yeah, at the time I was like super not into the whole I didn't even own a military jacket back then. I think, and I think I only bought the M43 because I saw Drake's have one. They have like the linen M43 or the D43 because it's Drake's.
It stands for Dick.
Yeah, I want the Dick 43 please. But yeah, like once Bryceland's came out and I started kind of seeing it through their lens, I think once I saw the actual tailoring aspect as opposed to like the casual side, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it was, I told him this in person, where it was like someone had put some of my ideas of menswear and did it like in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, like their tailoring is like that's still like, I don't wear tailoring as much, but it's like that's my dream, man. That stuff is beautiful.
Yeah, because I'm like, at that time I still had a lot more 30s and 40s clothing, and I would just never wear it because I'm like, I don't know how you would wear this today, but they have relatively wide leg pants, compared to the norm, and they would wear it with their like contemporary jackets, and I'm like, whoa, you can do that. Like I always thought that you had to taper everything, and for those of you who know me well, like you guys know, I like every time I bought pants like from a thrift store, I would taper them all the time, and I was like, maybe I don't have to do that. And there was a whole bunch of like like just like they would be able to pull off wide lapels. It was kind of like I was rediscovering classic menswear again through them, because the first brand I took notice of was B&N Taylor, and then I quickly discarded it. Not really discarded, but like I moved on to the Armory, which was a bit more contemporary. Yeah. And then I went kind of back to Bryceland.
Because I mean, I don't know if this was around that point, but you always talk about early on, you would really want to separate your vintage style from your more contemporary stuff. So Bryceland's was the first thing that made you go, oh, okay, I can do both.
Yeah, and more in the vintage thing, because I mean, like I think like when I saw Drake's, I'm like, yeah, I can do a 60s jacket with that, but that's not really super vintage. It's kind of like vintage-esque. You didn't have to, it wasn't like wearing a military chinos with a DB, and I couldn't find the picture because I wanted to include it, but there was a picture of Kenji wearing like a Dalcuore DB with like super wide leg chinos and like sockless loafers, and I'm like, holy shit, that looks fucking dope. And and Ethan has this kind of mastery over style, and he still wears tailoring, and he also like kills it with casual style.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like I get a lot of my I'm a thief. I steal I steal his outfits a lot.
I'm the garbage man. I eat garbage.
Exactly. I'm a thief. Directed by Michael Mann, and I love stealing his clothes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so again it's so interesting to see someone who can who appreciates vintage, appreciates Militaria, and contemporary tailoring, and combine it in a way that's like, that's wearable today. Yeah. Like it's still, I mean, it's odd compared to most, but it's not super costumey.
And it's great because it's like, no offense to any of these guys, but a lot of the guys that are like really big into tailoring, they do that, really well. There's a lot of guys, especially in Southern California, LA, that we know that do like, vintage workwear, military surplus stuff. And that's kind of all they do. And like Ethan, I think, does both better than anybody, essentially.
You're talking about me, Ethan, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So let's kind of go over the brand. So Bryceland's is kind of like the Armory in a sense that it retails other people's stuff through their curated lens. But they've just like the Armory, they've quickly started developing their own products.
Yeah.
Just like how the Armory has like their own special ring jacket models, Bryceland's has a house style from Dalcore.
And Ethan is the one that does a lot of the patterns for that, right? Or helps design it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has to be. Because I remember like reading in some article somewhere that he's not the best pattern maker, but like by his own admission, but he's developed a lot of like the different styles for stuff. So like when you look at Bryceland's, you see a lot of Dalcore tailoring ready to wear. You see a lot of Ambrosi trousers. Ambrosi is probably one of the most popular trouser makers in menswear right now. I think right now Pomela might actually start to like kind of trying to usurp that throne, but they're all friends. It's not like it's not like they hate each other or anything. But yeah, they have Ambrosi trousers, shirts by Ascot Chang, shoes by St. Crispin's and Corno Bleu, and the big thing with like with getting into Bryceland's or the Armory or any of these stores is like I'm learning about new artisans and like who to watch out for and basically who to drool over and just think, oh, if I only had unlimited money, that's what I'd do. And it's interesting because I find that the Armory is a bit more elegant in terms of tailoring, just because that's kind of like their shtick. But in terms of shoes, I think Bryceland's has some beautiful shoes.
It's St. Crispin's.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, like the Armory, I think they still wear Alden's, which is a bit more like an American kind of. I mean, they also have like Carmina and Yohei Fukuda, but yeah, I mean, like they just like Bryceland's is just so beautiful. Yeah. Like, and I'm sure they have different house models and same thing with Corno Bleu. They also have ties from Sevenfold or Sevenfold Firenze, which again is probably one of the best tie makers in the world in terms of construction, and they have like it's very vintage in terms of design too. Like it's like if Drake's is more of like the foulard kind of arena, then like Sevenfold is more of like the brocades of like the 30s.
Yeah, because I mean years ago when you were writing about like vintage ties or how to do and even like even going back older, it's like how to wear vintage style in the modern day, you included a lot of those photos. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and so it makes sense that Bryceland's because Ethan and Kenji are very conscious of vintage style, to use or to sell Sevenfold. Because I mean, like some of the pictures I've included, like the ties look very 30s, like very, deco, abstract, square, my favorite kinds of ties.
Yeah, it's like Wellama has a couple in his shop, and occasionally I'll look. It's like, oh, that's a great 30s tie, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I've been tricked.
I'm wrong.
Yeah, I've been tricked.
Darn it, Kaga-san, you've tricked us again. Yeah, I can't remember what else. I mean, they used to sell Groove and High rayon shirts, but they've since, I think, completely moved on to creating their own.
Yeah, because I remember Kenji was telling us about that when we were at the trunk show.
Yeah, and I think Spencer and I both have Groove and High shirts, and they're great, but I think that Kenji and Ethan kind of wanted like an even better, like premium, like higher quality, because I think even in Japan, Groovenhai is considered maybe like more of like a repro brand than a luxury brand.
Did you get to handle any of their shirts? Like, do they have any?
I didn't. I should have tried one on. I didn't.
Yeah, because I
knew
we did. There was none at the. I don't think there was any at the trunk show that we went to, so I haven't had the opportunity to like compare them. But yeah, it's like I love my Groovenhai shirt, but I'd be very, very interested to see what Bryceland's is doing.
And again, me and Spencer always talk about this, as we move on with our style, we buy less vintage, more contemporary iterations of stuff, because it's really hard to find vintage sport shirts that have kind of those abstract designs, because
a lot of them
polka dots or whatever
didn't survive, or just like those are the really, really collectible ones. So it's like cheaper, even though
because they're cool as hell
or whatever can be a little bit on the pricier side, at least in the States. I don't know how much it sells in Japan. But it's still going to be cheaper than going on eBay and spending like $500 on like a 1940s shirt with like a fish on it or whatever. That might fall apart, because it's like, as much as we love vintage and as well made as a lot of it is, when it's like 70, 80 years old, you still have to be a little bit more careful with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's cool to see Bryceland's kind of make their own versions. And I think, I don't know, I can't speak for them, because again, this whole podcast is me and Spencer's opinions on everything. Yep. But Groovenhai can be a little bit too wild, and the Bryceland's ones are kind of done very tastefully.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Like
they're abstract, but they're not.
I did see some prototypes, but yeah, it's a little bit more. I think it would be a little bit easier to wear with tailoring.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's the idea, because Bryceland's has a whole. They have a very great mentality. It probably stems from Ethan, because Ethan hates fast fashion.
Mm-hmm.
He, and a lot of menswear guys do, but they've, he never likes putting anything on sale, because he wants everyone to like. He put love and care into this product, and you should pay the fair amount.
Yeah.
He's not overhyping it, but he, it's like an agreement kind of thing.
That's what it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
What it said.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to make things too expensive, but I also don't want to undersell my work.
Exactly. Yeah, and also the work. I mean, almost all basically all the people who they work with and sell and retail for are their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so he sees going on sale as kind of like a bad thing, because it it devalues the brand. And so the way you get around that, and well, one of the main reasons why people put things on sale is because they have to move into the next season, and then they have too much stock, so they have to get rid of it so they can make way for the new stuff.
Yeah.
And Bryceland's, as Spencer just alluded to, like, all of it kind of just goes together.
Yeah, it's a very cohesive look. I was going to say that, like, everything they wear, you can, like, kind of go in there blind and, like, pick out, like, a jacket, like a pair of pants, shirt, whatever, and it'll look good. Even if you're grabbing, like, you're grabbing jeans, you grab, like, a sawtooth and then, like, a double-breasted jacket or something like that. You can still
and they show you how it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's a compliment to be paid to, all the great menswear stores. They always find a great way to show you how to wear it. But it's, they have a very small stock, it's very curated, very sought after, and probably with very low production levels.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, they don't have to worry about being overstocked on certain things.
Because even up until like semi-recently, they had like almost nothing on their website too.
Yeah, and I think that was more so because they didn't want to be like an e-commerce brand, because again, I think the company is very small. I mean, when I walked, it's like Ethan and like maybe like one or two people in the store.
Mm-hmm.
And same goes for the one in Hong Kong. And so it's gonna be kind of like the bloke. If someone bought something online, Jeff would have to go and wrap it himself and put it in the mailbox.
That's annoying.
Yeah. So, and like Ethan even talks about how he doesn't really do any advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been on the rake, but I mean they're friends. It's not really. He's not paying for Google ads or anything like that. Like basically, or for Facebook ads or Instagram ads or whatever, and kind of survives. And I think that's what results in Bryceland's having like this kind of cult of personality, I guess, or whatever, like
cult following.
Cult following. There you go. That's the right thing. He's not like Mao Zedong or whatever. But yeah, it's because it's Ethan's kind of and Ethan, Kenji, and the store are kind of a bit quieter. They don't post as much as like Drake's. They're not super. If Drake's is kind of silly, Bryson's is kind of a bit more somber, more so than the Armory.
Mm-hmm.
if the Armory, and you could argue the Armory is a bit more mainstream now, so Bryceland's a little bit, more of like the new guy on the block. And of course, it's also just a different store. You have wider leg trousers with a very high waist. You have kind of the more abstract design ties that aren't fun like Drake's. You have Gurkha shorts, you have sawtooth denim shirts,
and it looks like
and apparently now in Madras, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
Madras,
I
that's
want
weird.
One of those so bad.
Yeah, it's weird but cool,
Yeah,
and
it's so great. And it looks like based on the photos that he took, they even sell like dead stock vintage stuff.
Yeah, I wish I asked about that, because when I looked up the brand, I saw the same shirt from a different website. So I don't know what that is. So yeah, basically that's Bryceland's. It's very, I talk about it on the website on my blog, because it's got a look to it. Like they've created this aesthetic that's exclusive to them, because it's not just about being like rockabilly or workwear. It's like a tailoring version of it.
Yeah.
That is uniquely Bryceland's.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's one reason. I mean, that's the main reason why Spencer and I like them, because it's kind of like, especially me, because it combines more of what I like. Like when I look at it, like Spencer said, like wearing, like a jacket with wide leg pants. It's like a way to reconcile my past.
Yeah.
My love of vintage and my love of contemporary tailoring, and yeah, Ethan's a cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
So I did go and get to go visit them when I was in Japan. That was like a definite must.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah. So if I was gonna go back to it, like I never talked to Ethan as much. Like I'm not like, I mean, I mutuals with Mark Cho and Simon Crompton, and I don't talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it could be like an inspiration, like we look up to him kind of thing, or it's also just because they're like adults and I'm like a 24-year-old kid, and I don't live anywhere near them. Yeah. So I did, get the balls to be like, hey, Ethan, I know we've like commented like in the past, but I'm gonna let you know that I'm gonna be in Japan during this time. I just want to know if there's any day that because I definitely want to make sure I come and meet you and see the store. So let me know when I can see him. He's like, hey, dude, yeah, come in anytime. We're closed like on Sundays, and Mondays I'm off. So, anytime after that, just let me know. And I'm like, cool. And oh man, that day was just, every day is just long walking, as I told you guys last time. Because I think that day, I don't know what I was doing. I think I went to Kent Shop. I went to Harajuku. Bryson's is in Harajuku.
And which is kind of like tucked away, right? It's like not the easiest
well,
way
it was
to get to.
It was kind of like, like my grandma's house, where like most places I go to are accessible by freeway, but this place like was like you'd have to like go north of the freeway. So like Kent Shop and like Time Worn Clothing and Momotaro Jeans, they were like right outside, or like maybe like a 5-minute walk from the train stop. But this place was like a 15-minute walk from it. Like it was like deeper into this thing, and there was like there's no way. Like I would be able to take a train.
So
to just
it's kind of like Wooden Sleepers, like Red Hook, which was we visited that shop when we were in New York, but it was a little bit out of our way. But
yeah, it was like a 20-minute bus ride after a 20-minute train ride.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So because I didn't have a lot of time, I kind of I went through as much of Japan as I could. So Harajuku is a great place, and I looked around. Beams Plus was there, a bunch of vintage stores, and then I told them I'd be there late afternoon, and so I meant that as 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got there about 5, and I was greeted by Yamada. Yeah, that's his shopkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Ethan knew I was coming, and Yama was like, oh yeah, Ethan, the other Ethan, is still out getting some food right now. And I was like, okay, is it cool if I stick around? He's like, oh yeah, of course. And I did ask him if I could use the restroom, and I totally forgot that Anglo Philo, a bespoke suit maker, also shares a space with them. Like he shares like a workspace. Yeah. So when I went into the back to like take a shit, I walked in on the Japanese tailor working on some stuff. Nice. And I'm like, hello, and he's like, hello, and I walked away and I pooped and I came back, and then I'm pretty sure I guess Ethan Newton wasn't there just yet, And so I was like, hey, I want to kind of go around and take some pictures. He's like, yeah, of course, you know. So I went around because like I knew that when Ethan got there, I would be talking to him. Like I didn't want to like
this is like your only shot to get some pics.
Yeah, so I went around, you know, and unfortunately I didn't try on as much as I could, obviously, but you know, you guys will see all the pictures I took there. You know, like the rayon shirts, the Gurkha shorts, those weird dead stock sport shirts that Spencer talked about. You know, the ties, all you know, just everything that was in the store. And honestly, the store was a lot smaller than I thought it was.
I was curious how many people like work in that store. Is it just Ethan and Yamada, or do they have any other employees?
If you count Anglofilo, I think that's it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, the size is. I mean, it felt a little bit. No, it's kind of like Cody Wellman's shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's because, you know, this is the first shop.
Yeah.
Bryceland's opened up their first shop in Japan, and then they opened up their Hong Kong one like a year and a half ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's like that, and like you think, oh man, it's such a great store. You see all the pictures of Ethan, you know, maybe he has like a wide angle lens because it looks bigger than it is, but you know, it's small, but
it's like the TARDIS.
Yeah. We're nerds, guys.
Yep.
Fandom.
Doctor what?
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing because like even though it is smaller, it doesn't feel too small. Like they have like, it's like we said, it's stocked the right amount. Mm-hmm. It's just, you know, I think what I mean by small is just like floor, space, you know, like
square
space wise.
Footage.
Yeah, like, you know, when I think of like, you know, the portrait Ethan takes, maybe I think of like the hallway extending a little bit longer than it actually is. Yeah. But yeah, you know, it's got a very similar vibe to Cody's shop. You know, a lot of wood work, wooden floors, you know, metal racks, and a couple of like vintage accoutrements, like just, you know, decorating. Like there's like a grizzly leather jacket from like the 30s hanging there. You know, there's one where it's St. Crispin shoe, but it has spats on, and I thought it was like a button boot that they commissioned, but it's just spats. They've got, you know, you can see the Ascot Chang shirts there, and then I loved the like the checkout counter. What do you call it? The
cash
sales
wrap?
Counter. The cash wrap. I'm pretty sure they don't call it that.
Nope.
But yeah, like I love the old cash register. I know Cody has one too, actually.
Oh yeah.
Not the same one, but no,
just they both have vintage cash registers.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting to see that, like, you know, that's why Cody and Ethan are really good friends. Yeah. And yeah, that's another artisan that works with Bryceland's, you know, and they take pride in working with like the best of the best. And yeah, I mean they work with Ascot Chang, the best shirt maker in the world, my current employer, and they, you know, just like their suits by Del Cuore, just like their Ambrosi trousers or their Wilma hats, they have a distinct house style that's exclusive to Bryceland, so you can't go go to Ascot Chang and ask for it.
Wilma makes what, like two styles of hats for them?
Yeah, I think they have like the open road style and the Bogart, which is kind of like a 30s 40s style hat. I can't wear them because their crowns are all too tall on my round face. Because I'm not, you know, super cool like most Japanese people. I have a very round face. Yeah. I don't have a chiseled jawline. But yeah, so they have those. Still great. I mean, my hat from Cody is based on the Bogart, just done to my specifications. And which you could argue that it's no longer like a Bogart, but whatever. But yeah, like all of it's there. I love seeing the Bryceland style Ascot Chang shirts just because I haven't seen them in person. I know Cody, you can find some of the stuff at Cody's, and Cody, I think, is one of the few retailers of Bryceland stuff.
Yeah.
I know that I think the Anthology in Taiwan or Hong Kong also carries some stuff like chore coats or whatever. But it's very interesting because, you know, Bryceland's is a bit like, it's like spinning the Armory a bit on its head, where the Armory now is, you know, like I said, working toward making their own stuff. Like they have like their own house loafers or whatever, but Bryceland's is very focused on that. Like it's sooner than expected, I should say. And they don't make any tailoring on their own, but they, you their house label, like military chinos, Gurkha shorts, reproduction Lee or Lee inspired denim chore coats. Like those are stuff that other people can sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I got to see all that kind of stuff there. And then Ethan Newton walked in, and I was like, oh fuck, here we go.
Here we go again.
And he was, man, he's so cool. Yeah. Let me just say, he's super cool. Like he walks in, like he's wearing like a silver belly Wellama with his Cabana sport shirt, and it looks like a sport shirt, but it's got pockets on the hips.
Yeah, so it's like a shirt jacket, kind of more a shirt just with extra pockets. Yeah,
basically. And then he's wearing it with like Ambrosi summer weight gray trousers and like sockless like black suede loafers.
That scarf.
Yeah, and he's got the like cool like rayon scarf.
Yeah. Are you gonna start wearing your dress scarf now?
I did actually. I haven't shot it, but I did kind of pull it out. I'm not sure how exactly I want to do it, but I do, because I have two. For those of you who are wondering, I have one that's a bit more delicate, and one that's a bit like it can take more of a beating, like a heavier rayon.
Yeah.
And I think I can start using that one a bit more. So keep an eye out for that one on my Instagram. But yeah, so like he's just so cool. He walks, he's like, "Oh hey Ethan, what's going on?" And I'm like, nothing. But yeah, like I've, like I said in the Japan one, like I'm trying to learn my lesson from like when I met like say like Jake Grantham or so, like 2 years ago in London. Like I want to be seen as more cool. I'm
like
very
a fan, just like
Holly. Exactly. Yeah, and and I could argue we are, or I tell myself that we are in some shape or form. We are contemporaries. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we both work in the industry. But like when you get to meet these menswear people, especially people who are established, the conversation really isn't about clothes, because there's not really much to really talk about. Like I know when the Drake's guys, whenever Bruce Boyer comes in, and maybe that might be a little bit different because Bruce Boyer is more of a journalist about menswear as opposed to someone who's creating something or has his own style. I mean, and Bruce does have his own style.
Yeah. But he doesn't. He doesn't have a brand.
Yeah. So of course, like Alex would always tell me, Alex Winchell, who used to work at Drake's and now works at the Armory. He would be. I think they talked about the perfect blue shirt with the Bruce Boyer.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He was like, yeah, we talked about a blue shirt for an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I prefer a poplin, but he wants an end on end, for texture and the right shade of French blue or whatever. But with Ethan, I mean, yeah, of course we talked a little bit about menswear, but it was more of personal story wise and kind of relating it to life in Japan.
Yeah.
I think I asked him, I'm like, what's burgers like in Japan? Because he's not inherently Japanese, obviously, and he's like, dude, the best fucking burgers are in Japan. And I'm like, oh shit, I remember we talked about Tinder a little bit, which is kind of fun. I told him I was swiping around, just seeing what dating is like here and everything, and oh man, what else? You're just kind of shooting the shit.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
And talked about as we mentioned earlier, you found out he's a gamer.
Yeah, so I think I was telling because he wanted to know a little bit what LA was like. He's like, oh yeah, I see that you've got your own little crew in LA, and I'm like, yeah, we try and make it work, and just I think it's interesting because not all of us are in the industry, so we all are kind of regular dudes. And I mentioned how we're kind of nerds and we like playing video games. He goes oh yeah, I play video games. I'm like, oh really? Because I don't really think about it that much. And on that subject, I think I remember one time where Mr. Slowboy, the illustrator, drew a thing of Mark Cho and Simon Crompton, and it was them playing, maybe not them specifically, but it was menswear, an illustration of guys in menswear playing on the Switch. And then I think Mark made a joke about a Switch game, and I'm like, holy shit, does Mark Cho play on the Switch?
Yeah, they're people just
then
like us.
Then again, Mark Cho has children, so maybe it's for his child. I don't know. But yeah, it's Ethan was I bought a PS4 because I saw my nephew play one. I'm like, that looks fucking dope. I'm gonna buy one. So he bought it, and he has one game, and it's Red Dead Redemption 2.
Which is a great game.
I mean, yeah, I'm not a big fan of RPGs just because I don't have enough time.
RPG.
Yeah, it is.
Not really.
You have to level up stuff. You have to walk around. You have quests.
There's side quests, but you don't level up. like there. It's okay. We can't get into this. This isn't that kind of podcast.
Well, I'm saying it's like
you just don't like
big
open world like games like that. You like more multiplayer games or whatever. Faster
yeah, just because
stuff.
I can't. I can't play for like 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
I don't get sucked in. I see the appeal. I mean, I have Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like he was talking about that, and when I told Spencer that, Spencer was like, I want to see what outfits he creates in the game.
Because I don't know about him, but I did spend a lot of time, especially in the beginning of the game, finding like the perfect outfit for my Arthur. And hey, maybe I'll take a picture of it. We'll post it on the Instagram or something. Mine ended up pretty cool. I'd love to see what Ethan's look like.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm sure he put some thought into it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's cool to see, to have like a normal conversation with these kind of guys. Just like when we're hanging out with the Drake's boys, we might talk about like, oh, you see this new thing, but then we end up talking about normal stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him what new was coming from Bryceland's just because I didn't want to be like super Scoopy or whatever, or Snoopy, the dog.
Nice.
Woodstock, is that the name of the bird?
Sure.
Yeah. What else did we talk about? I did have a couple of questions just because, he is a really big inspiration to of mine. And I think I asked him, I told him that at Pity, obviously people, dress up. They want to peacock a little bit, even if you're into classic menswear or not. And afterward, it's kind of like the talk of the town. I'm sure, and I told him, my friends and I were always like, oh, man, that's such a cool look. We can't wait to see what they wear to Pity this time or whatever. Because, I'm not sure if I mentioned it specifically, but, there's that outfit, that Kenji wore. Was like a chunky turtleneck with, frog camo trousers.
Oh, yeah, which has been a favorite of mine for, a long time.
Yeah, and a beret with, a sport coat. And it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And just this past Pity, he wore a tan, I'm not sure if it's Solaro or Gabardine. It's probably Solaro, but he wore that suit with it's pretty toned down compared to the last time. And then because in fall or in winter, the Pity in December, he wore a brass button cashmere blazer with purple or burgundy moleskin trousers with a beret. And I'm like, what? How do you think of that? I'm assuming he doesn't look at Drake's and be like, oh, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, he doesn't. Pity, he doesn't do what we do. He's just better.
He references himself. And he's like, and he said just as much. He's like, yeah, I don't look at anybody else. It's one reason why he unfollowed everybody. Because it's also kind of political. And I see that. Oh, I have to follow this guy back because he's followed by this guy or
so it's
whatever.
Just easier to avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he doesn't need inspiration. I'm sure he does. He gets it, but he gets it organically from regular people. He doesn't look online and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna copy this look."
Yeah,
next.
it's like
he
this
just
is what's in
whatever
right now. I got to get something like this.
Yeah, and classic menswear isn't always like that. But I mean, there's always that kind of spade where Spencer. Oh, terry cloth shirts.
Yeah,
that sounds
exactly.
cool. Let's get one.
I'm not saying it's it's a terrible thing if you do that because again, Ethan and I definitely do that, and maybe one day we'll grow out of it. But for right now. It's fine. Yeah,
and plus we both do our own spin on things. There's nothing inherently wrong, but it's cool to see Ethan Newton who doesn't rely on it heavily. He just has an inkling. And he literally said I want to look like a fucking British aristocracy asshole, so I'm gonna wear a brass button blazer with burgundy moleskin trousers. Yeah. And it has. I loved it. It was it's like a go to hell look, but a bit more refined, right? It's not Nantucket Reds. It's like a deep purple red.
Do you have that photo on your blog?
I think it's most. I'm pretty sure I have it there. Yeah. If not, I will add it in right now. But he says when he goes to Pity, he just looks in his closet and he's whatever he's feeling. And in some cases, he says that he changes his mind. Maybe the day of, or just seeing how the weather is or whatever. And then. I asked him, I was like, did you ever see yourself becoming an icon that you are? And I wish I used a different word, but because I'm not trying to liken him to a celebrity,
yeah.
But to my friends and I, he has great style and we look up to him. Not for me at least, not just in terms of clothes, but in terms of career, in life and everything. he's got this really cool ease about life. He says that he doesn't take the train to work because he lives 15 minutes away, so everything he wears is based on a 15-minute walking commute.
Okay.
It's got to be comfortable, but it's also got to be easy, and he doesn't, it could be a rayon shirt one day, it could be a suit the next day.
Yeah.
Just kind of whatever the fuck he wants to do. And he said that, while he's very humble about it, he's a very humble guy in general, but he said that it wasn't surprising just because when you're in it as long as he is, people are bound to kind of look to someone for that direction and everything. And he says that when he was younger, and there's the cool story where he got to meet the owner of Avisu, I think randomly. You guys really gotta listen to the Blammo episode of him. Yeah, I remember that
story. Like they just went out for drinks or something like that.
And so, yeah, like to him, like those were his idols and everything. He got to hang out with them, and then now he's one of the big guys in menswear right now. And he says like it's just up to each generation to kind of take that mantle and kind of do what they can. Yeah. And maybe he's talking about me. I'm gonna assume he's talking about me. So, but again, it's just like I told him that LA doesn't have a lot of menswear, and it's important to be that kind of beacon of light, of sorts. He didn't say that. That's my words. Yeah. But like to help guide people to do it, because as much as Ethan loves to be an artisan or work with artisanal goods, he's still an entrepreneur in a sense, and it's still important to, like, if you want something to happen, if you want the market, you have to create it, and that kind of ties into another thing where we talk about, I call it the rule of cool, and I think we mentioned it before, where basically you just have to be cool. Like that's like the difference, right? Yeah. Like we've met people who can wear the craziest shit, but it's like the way they carry themselves and the ability to make it cool is what makes it cool and not ew.
Exactly. Exactly. Like if you follow like Mr. Mort on Instagram or whatever, he wears a lot of weird stuff, but he can pull a lot of it up. Yeah, and
it's like you could chalk it up to attitude, you can chalk it up to your physical attractiveness, you could chalk it up to the brands, but there's just a way to make it cool. Yeah. And me and Ethan were talking about that, and he's like, yeah, like I wear fucking old man clothes, I wear like pleated shorts, and if I want people to buy it, I gotta make it look appealing to them. Yeah. And like that's something that also stuck with me, and I guess that ties into his whole idea of non-advertising,
because I also love his attitude where it's like, they sell a lot of great casual wear, obviously. And I think in one of his articles, he was talking about people who are just too overdressed to everything. Like I think he used the analogy. Yeah. Like if you're climbing a mountain, you don't need like a bespoke 3-piece suit. It's like sometimes you just need like hard wearing stuff that gets the job done. And so it's like even though the stuff that it's like he wants the stuff that he makes to be treasured. He wants it also to be lived in. He wants it to be like actually worn. Yeah. Yeah. That's something that not Ethan, that Cody Wilmo also shares, because he makes a lot of bespoke hats or whatever, and I know that occasionally he has to do some distressing on hats, before they reach the client, and it's kind of like he'd rather, of course, if that's what the customer wants, that's what they get, but it's cooler to have a hat that gets beat up on its own. Yeah. Because then each wear and tear gets like its own story. And and Ethan likes. I mean, that's one of his favorite things about vintage clothing. Like back then, it was meant to be worn in. And repaired over and over as it needed to be. And he's not a tailor. He says he's not a tailor, but he's done a lot of repairs himself. You can. I think when Autumn of 2120 went there, Ethan was like in the back, just like sewing up a pair of pants. Like doing something himself, and I think that's super cool. Yeah, because it's like, I mean, I'm very into workwear and military surplus, and if there are cool patches, hand repairs, whatever, that like just makes it all the more. I mean, I like that more than something that's in like pristine condition. Yeah, yeah. And I'm slowly starting to get on that side, just as I combine more and more rugged stuff in my own style. Yeah. And everything.
But yeah, I mean, I can't really remember what else we talked about. I know his brother came by.
And this is when you got to explain what anime was.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he knows what anime is exactly, but he was his brother was saying that he was buying, you know, souvenirs or whatever, and he said he spent like a bunch of money on cards called like Magic the Gathering. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, cool. And I think Ethan knew, was like, what's Magic the Gathering? I'm like, oh, it's like a trading card game. And he says like baseball cards. I'm like, no, like you actually have to play it. You know, you gotta. It's like Yu-Gi-Oh. And he goes like, what's Yu-Gi-Oh? And I'm like, oh, it's an anime. And he goes, is that like the Studio Ghibli thing? And I'm like, kind of. I mean, it's more like, you know, I don't know. It's more like because that's not like SpongeBob. I mean, there are some animes which are literally for kids. Yeah. You know, but
I mean, it's like I'm just jealous of him. I wish that was me.
Yeah, so I mean, Ethan Newton isn't exactly the nerds that Spencer and I are when it comes to pop culture or nerd culture.
Well, because you also talk about how he's just different than a lot of menswear guys in general who are like, you know, big into like jazz. I think you talk about cycling and stuff like that, and he's not. He's more like a rock dude. He's
because I think he says he shares a lot in common with like rockabilly stuff, but not inherently. Like he's not a rockabilly person. He likes, you know, like he likes rock. He's like a metalhead too. You know, like there's a lot of pictures of him wearing
metal
like
tees.
Old Metallica
band tees.
Yeah, and those are like those are his concert tees. Like they're all tore up from his, you know, from his youth or however. And he wears that. Like, there's a really cool picture of him wearing that with like his like Dalcoore like charcoal gray suit.
Yeah, and I remember you saw that and you're like, I gotta do this. You're like,
yeah, I gotta find a way to make it look good, like on myself. And I haven't crossed that line there yet. But yeah, like he just has this really cool, like, you know, unique vision. And to me, obviously, that stuff is still inherently cooler than me. You know, as you guys know, I listen to film scores and indie rock, and I love Star Wars to the point where, you know,
you're gonna buy.
We can talk about why TLJ is great, and we can talk about why Rogue One sucks, and all that kind of stuff.
Our Patreon could be our movie podcast. That's where you get
all the extra stuff. But yeah, no, like he is a lot different, like not just in terms of body type, as Simon Crompton pointed out last year, but you know, most of menswear, at least maybe the most of the ones that he knows, is a bit more elegant, a bit more refined, and he's kind of a bit more rugged in comparison. I remember that his Tumblr used to be called Rugged Old Salt. At least that used to be like the header of it. Yeah. And yeah, you know, he says fuck, you know, he likes to you know, play guitar and apparently play Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yep.
And near the end of it, he like pulls out this like Gibson. I don't know. I'm calling it a Gibson because that's
it could be.
Oh, Fender. It could be a Fender. I don't know. It's like, some electric guitar. He like plugs it in with the amp and just starts like fucking playing. And like I think it was Red Hot Chili Peppers. And I'm like, holy shit! Like, what the hell's going on right now? You know, and I asked him, I'm like, how long have you been playing? He goes like, oh, like I picked it up. I just picked it up. You know, it's all like, you know, he's just kind of shrugging off. And I'm like, dude, like this, like
that's real Spencer tour right there.
Yeah, and I'm like, I know like a couple of chords in guitar, and I could pick up a guitar and play like 4 chords, and it will not sound like whatever the hell he's doing. But you know, even then, like I even talked to him about like, you know, how it was like to learn Japanese, and he goes like, oh, I don't know Japanese, but I can just speak it to get by. And then a guy walks in and he's just talking to him in Japanese, and I'm like, okay, you know, it's a very cool, you know, it's a very cool mindset, and it's very admirable to see, you know, to see one of the people that we look up to be as humble and easgoing as a regular person is. Yeah. You know, and I think that's like the appeal of not.
He seems very approachable.
Yeah, and I hope Spencer and I like that. Yeah, for the guys who have met us.
Yeah.
You know, if not, go fuck yourselves. No, I was kidding.
I don't want to approach you.
Yeah. But yeah, like I also got to talk to Yamada a lot. You know, he tells, you know, because you know, all 3 of us are talking, and Ethan's encouraging Yamada, you know, to open up about himself and everything, and I think he used to work in like luggage before, and he's worked for Bryceland since it opened now,
Okay.
or maybe not since it opened, maybe like a year or so for now. And yeah, and Yamada's got great style, super nice. He was very helpful, very encouraging. He would always ask me stuff, and I got to see both Ethan and Yamada in action. You know, with two different customers who just walk in, and you know, it's very seamless. You start talking Japanese and try on different stuff, and yeah. So one guy, he tried on the Cabana shirt, and Ethan was trying to sell him on it. Like, it's very easygoing. Like, I couldn't tell exactly until, you know, after Yamada translated it to me, but, you know, he's trying to sell someone. Like, it's a very easy shirt, you know, you can throw it on. And then the guy clearly was like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's got those long collars. He wasn't very into vintage, right? And then Ethan's like, oh no, you guys like add this accent. And so he throws on the scarf, and he's like, yeah, see, it's like a little bit of extra, you know, makes it a bit more cool and loose. And the guy, I don't know if the guy bought the scarf, but he ended up buying the shirt because of it.
Okay.
The Cabana shirt.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, and it's cool to see, like, yeah, Ethan Newton selling on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of menswear guys are like that. Like, I'm sure if you visit the Armory and Mark Cho, well, I don't know, Mark Cho is kind of a busy guy. He's got like 3 businesses going on. But I have heard stories of, like, in the maybe like, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that Mark Cho could, like, if you happen to be there, Mark Cho would help you out.
Yeah.
You know, he'd grab you a size or something. And that's again another reason why I like menswear or classic menswear a lot. You know, because you know, Mickey Drexler wouldn't help you at J. Crew. You know,
It's
I mean,
like-
he
it's like
hasn't
the
worked
people
there
that
in a while.
The people that you see are the ones that are actually, like, you know, on the floor doing the selling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's a very important, you know, and that's one reason why I think that menswear has continued to survive for so long, is because you get that extra service, you know, that you don't get. It's like Dunder Mifflin.
Exactly.
People
Big box
versus
stores
paper
will never
people.
be able to match our customer service.
Yeah. But yeah, any other things that you want me to reminisce about for Bryceland? I can't really think of much. I know I wrote a lot. You know, it's kind of more of like it's more of a narrative based one, because it's kind of like me and, you know, kind of observing Ethan. I got a picture taken of myself by him, which was super
saw
cool.
he posted on his Instagram.
Yeah, and he called it the other Ethan, which I think is really hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever go in there and he was like, "Hey, give me back my name, bitch"? Did you say that?
Yes. No.
Okay. I mean, we could just talk about, like, our favorite pieces that they have right now. Because, I mean, you and I both got terry cloth shirts, which are...
Yeah.
We are recording this on the 1st. We're going to both be wearing them on the 4th of July.
You'll see that probably the Monday. What the hell's the Monday after 4th of July? Is that like the 11th?
I don't know. Let me check my calendar.
It's not important.
Yeah, it's the 8th.
Okay.
But yeah,
yeah. So because
I've wanted one for a while, since I saw Bottle Rocket, where Owen Wilson wears one, and then when Bryceland's came out with theirs, I was like, okay.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, terry cloth is the name of, like, towel fabric, and I don't think actually Bryceland's calls it a terry cloth shirt. They call it a towel shirt. Yep. So
just
our
personal
bad.
branding, I guess.
Yeah. But. Oh, I'm burping again.
It's kind of like their Cabana shirts, where they have the 2 or 3 pockets.
Yeah, but the collar is a bit smaller.
They're lined with towel cloth.
Yeah, which is terry cloth.
Yeah.
You know, it's and then the outside is a printed voile, which comes from Ascot Chang's Deadstock Library.
Which you still have a couple of, like, early 90s or 80s sport shirts from.
Yeah, not a lot. There's maybe like 20 to 30 left, all in, like, size medium, which is like a size 40, 41. Chest. But yeah, like, I think Ethan told me, like, he was looking through the archives, because, you know, that's what he does. You know, a lot of Ascot Chang, a lot of Bryceland's by Ascot Chang shirts are made from vintage fabric.
Yeah.
And you know, he was looking at the voile fabric, and it's really light. I mean, some of them are thick enough to be worn, but, like, I think you'd have to, like, double side it or something just to make sure it's
how
not
are
just
the
like a
ones
fucking
that you
see-through
sell
shirt.
that you have in the store?
There's both.
Okay.
There's both cases there. But he was like, "There's no way people are gonna buy this. Like, why not?" Like, he got the idea, like, fucking towel shirts, man. Like, that's one way to make this fabric work. And yeah, that's how they were born. they're a lot lighter than my vintage one, because
Mm-hmm.
my terry cloth shirt is it's heavier, it's more substantial. Yeah, it's like a towel you have at home. It's not really like a luxurious thing. Well, Bryceland's has a bit more of a luxurious, elegant feel. That way you can wear it out. Like, I could not wear mine out. Like, I'd sweat way too much because it's a fucking towel.
Mine, I think, is a little bit lighter than yours because I don't have as much trouble. I mean, when you see it in person, you can compare it. Yeah. But it's like, I got one from Joyride Vintage in orange. It's something they've had for like a while. And I traded stuff in and picked it up. But yeah, mine is like late 60s. It's a very like psychedelic print. But I've worn it a couple times. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and it's cool. The look's been growing on me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that if I go swimming and I'll wear it, I'll be dry.
Yep.
Because
you're like wrapping yourself in a towel.
Yeah, I remember seeing a Lawrence Fellows illustration of a guy wearing a DB terry cloth jacket, and I want one so bad. I don't know.
You're talking about.
I don't know if any such products exist.
You're gonna have to make it. You're gonna have to get it like custom made.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be cheap if I could just, because there's no canvas.
Nope. Are you just gonna get a towel?
I'm just gonna find towel fabric and be like make me a DB jacket of this.
Okay.
And so make it cheaper.
Yeah. Going back to their tailoring, the gray like pleated pocket belted back jacket that he wore to Pity, I think last summer, yeah. Like I said earlier, their tailoring is like the gold standard. That is the gold standard jacket. If I could have every jacket made in that pattern, I would be happy. Yeah,
their shoulders are very extended. Mm-hmm. They're kind of I personally, I think I even told Ethan that I'm not the hugest fan of that, because it's in some pictures it looks like it's dropping off the shoulder.
And then he was like, "Get out of my store."
Yeah, and that's how I left.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's so slouchy. The lapels are the perfect width, 3-roll too, and then like the big patch pockets that are pleated with the half belt in the back.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Mm-hmm. I did not see that in person there.
Dump bummer.
Just because it's a bespoke piece, they don't sell that.
Yeah.
And Ethan was not wearing tailoring on that day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, their Gurkha shorts were really nice. It's like a nice cotton twill. That's definitely miles ahead of my WPG ones.
Yeah.
Streets ahead. And if you don't get it, your streets behind.
That's true.
Come on, Pierce Hawthorne. Percival Hawthorne.
It's been a while since that show's been on the air. I should rewatch it.
I wonder if they got those that movie.
They haven't.
Nope, they never will.
Unless it's announced before this episode comes out, and then we'll look like fools.
Yeah. Yeah. What else is there? I mean, the rayon shirts are really nice. I touched them. They felt nice, but I did not wear them and see. But like, I like them a lot because they look visibly similar to vintage shirts that I have from the 40s.
Yeah.
And of course, again, like I said, the printed, the patterns on them are really nice because you can't really get those anywhere. Like, a lot of mine are just kind of plain. The only pattern ones I have is like one that Spencer gave me that was always too small for him, and it's too short. It's got a real cool like chevron-ish.
Oh, like, yeah, I got it.
Deco design thing.
Like our first time at Lulu's, I got that because I was going on like a vacation and I needed a lot of like lightweight shirts, and I got that because it was pretty cheap because I think there's like a little bit of damage to it or something.
Oh, it's a lot damaged.
But yeah, I wore it on the trip and I was like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah. And you see I have that, and I have a Groove and High shirt that's a bit more of a smaller print, but you don't have like the kind of big, more interesting ones, because I always feel that if you wear like a plain one, you kind of get like a 40s dad kind of connotation with tailoring, I mean. And then so having a little bit of pattern on it, like whether it's like the ones that they have, those like abstract designs, those really help give it new life and make it more interesting than when it's worn with tailoring or on its own.
Because I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast, but I love the bigger patterns too, even with tailoring. Just because if I were still like bigger into vintage and I had a lot more money to spend on clothes, I think my vintage style would be like 50s con artist. That's the thing that I'm really into, and I think those shirts are great for that. It's like the big loud shirts I love.
Yeah. I mean, I forgot, like, it's just, it has kind of like a 70s appeal to me too as well, just a little bit. Because I think they don't really do the runaway collar as much. They kind of tuck it up.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how they incorporate this look. But yeah, I think that's like all the products that I think I like from them.
Yeah, I mean their denim jackets.
I mean,
are great.
I like a lot of them.
Course,
but
yeah, the Sawtooth shirt are great. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that, as we said. With
I got a Sawtooth shirt now.
Yeah, as we said with the terry cloth shirts, there's a lot of stuff that I see on their Instagram that inspires me to get it. Like, I got my 40 Stetson now that we have a lot of friends that have it, so I've wanted one for a long time. But the guys at Bryceland's wear theirs all the time. And so it's a great resource.
Right that it's one of the ones that you can wear all the time.
Yeah, and it's a great resource for like being like, okay, so this is how you wear it and not look like you're like just doing cowboy cosplay.
Yeah, and I think one big thing too, especially if you're like me and Spencer with a past in vintage, you can find similar garments in vintage to kind of get a look for yourself before you buy it from them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like our friend Doug is probably one of the biggest maybe not direct proponents of it, but he'll have similar pieces and he'll pick for us, like vintage military chinos, and we can, even though we can't buy the military chinos from Bryceland's, we'll buy these used ones through him, or he'll help pick us some, and then we'll wear it with our tailoring.
Yeah.
As Bryceland's would do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of goes like the Tailor-Cade thing where, it's nice to buy vintage, but it'd be cool to also have one yourself and get those repairs done yourself and have them wearing in, That's a big thing too.
Yeah.
Because I know Ethan's had like his Bryceland's denim for like 2 years or whatever.
And they look great.
They look great.
Yeah.
I'll finish off just with the thing about his photography, because I started talking about it a little bit, but like, yeah, Ethan Newton is still one of my biggest inspirations for photography, and we talked a little bit about it, and he actually got to pick up a new Leica because his other one was stolen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
and so he got a new one, and he's really got me thinking about going to a mirrorless camera because he'd say like, oh, he can't fuck with DSLRs because there's too many buttons. There's too much stuff to think about, and he'd rather it be like whatever he sees in the viewfinder is what he gets.
Yeah.
There's no like, I know a lot of my friends use my camera, and I use mine, and I have this kind of feel to like take a picture, but my friends like, they'll take a picture and I'll be like, oh shit, that's like way overexposed, like, and for him it's
just simple. I get it.
Yeah. Even though it's a Leica, it's a really great camera. And yeah, it's like just his approach to it. It's very, it's very in line with his approach to clothing. It's very casual. He never studied, photography classes or whatever. He uses whatever the old version of iPhoto was to edit. Like, he doesn't use like Lightroom or anything or Photoshop. And I think I asked that in our photography episode. We're like, oh yeah, I don't know what he uses for it, and he told me like he just uses like very basic, like oh, make it brighter, make it, bring up the contrast, like that's it.
Okay.
And I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
It's like Sprezzatura but in photography.
If it works, it works.
And I think even Kenji, while we were talking to him, he's like, he made a point to say Ethan's a very amateur photographer. And even Ethan admits that too, but I'm like, I can't tell because I love the beautiful photographs that you've taken, and there's a sense of an appreciation of art behind it, which was, again, the big theme of our photography episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, getting to meet him, seeing all the products, just a great way, and probably the biggest highlight of my Japan trip.
Yeah, so hopefully you'll get to see him again. Hopefully I'll get to meet him one day. That would be very cool.
Yeah, and maybe next time we'll get a burger.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like, I kind of was there, and I was like, oh, maybe we'll go get dinner. He's like, all right, I'm heading out for dinner. I'll see you later, Ethan. I'm like, okay, cool.
There was an invitation for you to join him. You just didn't pick up on it.
Yeah. Oh, shit, I should have kissed that girl.
Yep.
Next on Ethan's dating life. No. But yeah, that's basically it. I mean, guys, if you want to read the full, more articulate version of this, you can read the blog post where I kind of just, it's the same thing.
Yep.
Just solo, no Spencer in that one. And you get to see all the pictures that we're talking about, some of our favorite outfits from Bryceland's, and yeah, it's a good read. So follow along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. That's what it's called.
The website.
Yeah, at Ethan M. Wong.
I'm at Spencer DSO.
And again, if you guys want to show your support, please give us a rating on iTunes. We still only have 3 written reviews. I think we got some more actual, star ones.
Anything's helpful, but yeah, if you guys can drop 5 stars, written reviews are really, really helpful. If you have any friends that are into menswear and don't already know about this podcast, please let them know.
Yeah, and if they can stand us talking and rambling for like an hour.
Yeah, because we don't spend any money on advertising, so word of mouth is the only way that we can really get out there.
Yeah, we also edit this on our free time. Shout out to MJ. Yeah. Don't get on mic.
This is also the first episode we've done in a long time that's all like one take, so making it easy on you, MJ.
Yeah. Yep. Good for him. Mm-hmm. Don't get on mic, please. If you have any other questions, concerns, suggestions, if you want to join in or whatever, you can also follow the podcast on Instagram at Style and Direction. We respond to messages on there. Mm-hmm. So if you have something like specifically about it, or you can always just message one of us. Yeah. It's the same thing. And if you guys want to just actually have a community, you can go to the Street Expressa community on Facebook. You can search that up. There's a link on the blog as well.
It's pretty active. That's where there's a lot of great guys on there. Ethan and I don't post quite as much, but we'll pop it in the comments, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great way to to keep up with what we're doing. Because I know that Blamo has a Slack, and I'm like, that's for old people. We use Facebook. Thank you.
We should set up a Discord.
Yeah.
That was a joke I wasn't going to.
Okay. Yeah. Only because it sounds like an order. Okay. Yeah, coming up next, we're going to have another podcast on a great movie very soon.
Oh, boy.
Keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.